Alrighty, we are back. It's The Last Word, a Chrisman commentary weekly soap opera or story, right? I remember my grandma calling it her stories. Anybody else remember that?
My grandma, Young and the Restless, old everywhere,
right?
Stories.
So it's 1 o'clock Eastern. That, if my memory serves me, that would have been like what was it? All My Children, something like that.
Guiding Light.
There you go, Guiding Light. Right.
Are you sure it was your grandma's story, Brian?
3 o'clock was General Hospital in these parts.
I remember when we used to get out of school, like if you had a sick day, we didn't have snow days where I grew up. There was no snow, but if you were homesick, you got to watch the episodes because we didn't have recording. Like you couldn't you didn't have Netflix or whatever. Like you could only watch it when you were homesick or it was summer.
Third world problems for us older generation. Well, big week as usual. Anybody paying attention to what's going on in the Twitter universe with a couple of crazy guys? What do you all make of the
memes are incredible. The memes are incredible. They're so good.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Let's start there because somebody sent in a donation to the Last Word Venmo account in honor of Courtney's offer.
Right. I've never seen a LinkedIn post hit in a way. KP, the world wants to hear from you, brother. They want to hear about what you think about Elon and old Donald.
Oh, I missed it. I've been on the road since pretty much birth, but this week I've been a little out of pocket, so I missed it. But gosh, Elon and Donald, we all knew it was going to fizzle out. I didn't know it would be an absolute epic meltdown, but my favorite meme was the richest guy in the world versus the most powerful guy in the world, and these two like angelic figures that are like all muscled up, like throwing jabs at each other. I don't know, man. I wouldn't mess with the president. He's got a lot more power. My money's powerful, but he's got the purse strings of our broke ass nation. So and law enforcement behind him. I guess the crux of it is, we talk a lot about inflation and rates and the mortgage ecosystem, and the biggest driver of inflation is government spending. And if you listen to what Elon is saying, nobody has the guts to do anything about this big, beautiful bill. And, and Trump replies back, well, it's actually, less spending over 10 years than, the last budget. So I don't know. I'd side with Elon on this one, not because I'm a Tesla fanboy, but, you guys have heard me say it over and over, like we're broke, like we are broke. And I know they're not going to do it in this bill, but we need to raise the retirement age to 67. And we need to do something with Medicare or Medicaid. There's a lot of waste and fraud in there. I'm not saying take people's health care and, let poor Brian View's grandmother, not enjoy her stories. But, it's just, we're broke, but the flip side is we could grow our way out of it. We went from a $19 trillion economy to like a $33 trillion GDP economy. So, or 32, I think is the latest number. So, and that's just since 2019. So with, AI, we talk about it a lot on here and in our, economy and all the innovation here. We could grow our way out of it. That's certainly what they hope for in the White House. So, I am betting we're going to grow our economy. I don't know if we can outpace the debt though. So higher rate, higher for longer.
What was I think about an hour ago, I saw a news headline that Trump was calling out Jay Powell again in demanding a 1 point cut after the labor reports. It kind of seems like there's some conflicting. Again, I haven't dug into the headlines, so I'm scrambling like UKP coming off the road circuit for the week. But it seems like there's some conflicting headlines on this morning's payroll numbers. What was the readout from your guys' perspective?
I mean, I could take it and hand the mic to our high-powered women here. I love to hear everyone's take on Elon and Trump. The jobs report was, it wasn't so much the headline number as that the last number was revised down. I think like 75,000 jobs. Remember, like that was like a really big jobs report last month. It was like 170 something, and so now it's down to like 147. So a lot of jobs were taken out from prior reports, but net not enough to say that labor is softening. So I would say the ADP report this week was the one that fooled everyone. It's supposed to be 110,000 jobs created. It was only 37,000 ADP payroll white collar jobs, and everyone thought, all right, hey, now it's starting. We've been talking about tariffs. It's finally starting. We're going to start seeing a weak economy, and nothing weak has really started. So it doesn't mean it won't, and doesn't mean that stuff can't come through the system. But gosh, I think 10-year Treasury is actually up a little bit this morning. I think I just looked; it was like at 447. So we had a big lock day yesterday, and maybe some people get off the shelf a bit today if they were hoping to float into today. So, kind of a nothing burger. This is what a soft landing looks like, and we're still in the middle of it.
It feels like we have a little more stability, but you look at like Polymarket for anybody who wants to go to a gambling website, and how many rate cuts are we going to have? Still the vast majority of people are betting 30% betting that there's going to be no rate cuts this year. 26 say that there's going to be 1, 22% say that there's going to be 2. And so, this is what the people think. This is not necessarily what actually is going to happen, but this is the assessment of what's going on. Also, only 2% of people believe that there's going to be evidence that Trump went to Epstein's Island. Like, there's all kinds of interesting things you can look at to vote on here.
That's not a real thing. He went. Let's just tweet that. Like that should not even be a discussion. That was one of the funny things, memes yesterday. He went. It's okay. It's not okay, but let's whoever has that poll is wrong. I'll take the under.
21% of people think that Elon Musk is going to unfollow Donald Trump in the month of June on X, and 21% believe that they'll reconcile by next Friday. There's some interesting betting going on here if you ever look at Polymarket.
That'll be my Saturday morning entertainment. Yeah. I'll put it on the list.
Absolutely.
For 25 cents, you two can be engaged. I think that's what it costs to place a bet somewhere around in there.
Court, did you see the tweet where Elon's like, the reason the list isn't out is because he's on the list.
I thought of you immediately. I was like, oh, I hope I get to talk to Kevin tomorrow. No, I think that so all of these things are probably true. And I think that everything's still a little skedaddle out there, right? And that's why there's not a lot of faith that things are going to get better. This is why there's, just as much faith as I have in Donald Trump not being on the Epstein list, right? I think that the market still has in interest rates actually coming down at this point. There's something that I was reading just before right now, same issue, not a betting website though. That is a far better source than NBC or CNBC or whatever the hell I was reading. Where 72% of people believe that there's going to be 2 cuts before the end of the year before last week. And this week it's down to 22% think that there might be one in September. Yeah. It's all speculation at this point. I don't think that, it's only June. Right. I remember when we had one of these talks after the first 100 days in office, and we were like, whew, right? Because there was so much happening during that time period. I'm a little relieved that Elon Musk apparently was on ketamine that entire time, because some of the stuff that was going on just didn't seem human. And so if he was all, hopped up, that actually makes me kind of feel better about his behavior at the end of the day. I just feel like, where we all agree on these things is probably where the truth still lies, right? We are spending too much money in the federal government. There needed to be an amount of change. Did it need to be the stepbrothers? Just to pull from old KP and Jordan's back and forth online last night? Maybe not, right? But at the same time, we hadn't seen a lot of movement in the last, however many years you want to give it, right? And it wasn't the last administration or the one before then. We have, for a series of time since the 60s and 70s, right, kind of just stayed in the middle. And no one gets to the highest office in this country without being a little off, I think. But at the end of the day, I think that we would have to see some stability and some consistency. And unfortunately, this is another circus week for the market. Really,
it's a distraction. It's a distraction to what we need to do to get our jobs done on a day-to-day basis. And it also lends to the psychology. When people feel instability and they feel chaos, they're not confident in making big financial decisions. And so that has an impact on our market. One of the best things that we can have, if we think about our business just in general, is we just need some stability. We need some predictability. And that's what we're not getting right now.
We need lower rates, but I agree. I mean, there are a handful of people that are like, oh, I'm just going to hold off on buying a house because of all I read about is tariffs. And of course, they're just suckers that are renting, and so they're just making the landlord rich. And, having said that, loan applications are up year over year. Business is up year over year. Last year was up the year from the year before. So, I mean, it's a steady, rising, positively trending market. And so if we want any kind of, burst, we just need lower rates. But I will tell you who's winning in the meantime is originators. 80, I think I said on the last show, 81% of Q1 business was purchase business. I bet that number will drop down a little bit just because like the rush of refis in Q2 with the tariff kerfuffle. But I had someone come up to me and ask last night what a kerfuffle was. She had to look it up. So yeah, it was pretty funny. Anyway,
there's a couple synonyms for it too.
Oh yeah, you guys do way more research than I do. I don't know. I think we're in a good spot. What I worry about is the second half of the year, and it seasonally slows down. Towards the end of the summer, and we got a nice burst in rates in August all the way up through September. The first Fed cut, and then when the Fed actually cut 50 basis points in September, rates went up, and so, but there was enough flow that came through that made August through December pretty good, all up year over year. And so, could we be seeing the same playbook again? And I would have said before any tariff talk was going on that it was a lock for a 25 basis point cut in the June meeting. And the president's his own worst enemy at some points. I mean, this battle he has with the Fed, they have each other's back, and so he's given them an excuse to wait. You know what? I'm not saying they're like being vindictive or petty, like because you go at him. He goes at him all the time, but with the whole tariff thing and the uncertainty about where we're going to land with that, and there is still uncertainty. I mean, we only have one trade deal done, so they gave the Fed an excuse to pause. And so, to Polymarket's point or anyone's point, I mean, there's a lot of really brilliant talking heads on CNBC are saying there's no cuts this year, max 2, and maybe as late as December. So anyway, I would love to see lower rates. That cures all. In the meantime, business is up, everything's up, but so are listings, right? So is inventory, and that's an interesting one for home price appreciation.
Well, I think inventory being up is something to note, particularly depending on where you are and what type of inventory. Real estate has always been local, and this is why we talk about local originators matter, local realtors matter, right? That market knowledge makes a big difference, and different markets are going to have different experiences from now through forever. But really, I think you're going to see some big differences between now and the end of the year and into Q1 of next year with what does it feel like to be in different marketplaces.
So let's shift gears a little bit. KP and I, which were at the same event and didn't.
But you're not now together at this moment.
But no, and we didn't see each other. We were at the same event, and I mean, I saw KP on stage, he may or may not have seen me, but we didn't. It was weird. It was like one of the first times we were at an event and we weren't able to high five or punch knuckles. But so we were at the EPM TAG, the American Gift. So it's Eddie Perez's mortgage company. This is his 5th annual TAG event. And what was really interesting to me as a non-lender, I finally come to grips with that. I'm not going to call myself a vendor though, and just a non-lender. Eddie and his team did such a cool job to bring competitors, right? KP, PRMG, and EPM compete in a channel of business. So he brought competitors into the room together. He brought cross-channel competitors. So NFM Lending is a retail mortgage company, non-wholesale, that was in the room. He brought one of the largest multi-channel lenders in Rocket Mortgage into the room. And there was a session, KP was on the panel, where Eddie moderated a discussion with NFM and PRMG and Rocket, and who am I missing? KP?
Windsor.
Oh, Windsor, yeah. Chris Vincent, Windsor, another multi-channel.
Greg Scher, Katie Sweeney,
lender.
myself.
It was super cool to have that happen in a broker event. And, we'll see where that goes, like how that permeates with the street level. But to me, it was like a much needed step in the right direction from an industry perspective to bring together these competitors and talk about real issues that ultimately impact street level distributed loan officers, whether they're in the wholesale channel, retail channel, or a bank or a credit union. So, I just want to go on the record to commend Eddie and his team for not just doing that, but actually creating a world-class environment. It was like a TED Talk meets, I don't even know what you would want to call it. It was a pretty epic event with amazing content, a pretty interesting, varied list and line of speakers. And I got out last night before the T-Pain concert. I'm not even sure I could name a T-Pain song, by the way.
Hey, bartender.
I thought it was a metaphor for something else when he said T-Pain earlier. I didn't know it was an actual concert that you went to, KP. That's amazing.
Yes.
But I would love a T-Pain metaphor. That would make my day. That sounds cool. Did they talk about any interesting solutions, Brian? My biggest point, and I'm a fixer at Soul, so maybe it's my problem, not anybody else's problem, is that we talk about problems a lot, but we don't talk about solutions a lot. I would have loved to hear what that group really thought about that.
Yeah, I would tell you, I sat through most of the sessions yesterday, and then the day before there was some kind of pre-breakouts. I would say at a high level, it was less about problems. There was not a lot of people talking about problems from the stage. There were a lot of people in these kind of micro 10, 15-minute content sessions who literally were talking about what they're doing to win today. So they were providing, the playbooks that are working for them in their markets. I think it was Chris Vincent. He may have had the most poignant line for me. It was, too many of us think about our databases, and he challenged people to, instead of using the term database, that we exchange that for portfolio, and think about our portfolio just like we would think about our portfolio of stock holdings and investments, right? And I think that, to me, that was one of the big aha moments for people to just, it's easy to say database, and then it just becomes this thing that's over here that you'll get to when you get to. But if you actually think about this asset that you've built as an individual, it is your portfolio, and how you can actively and proactively mine it for business. That was a pretty cool kind of aha moment, just to change a word in a description.
I love the focus on the positivity, because there's, in every market, And maybe I am the eternal optimist. You know, one of my favorite lines from chairmans was around, you know, hey, you've accurately predicted 12 of the last 3 recessions. And that, when Bob said that, it kind of made me laugh. But you know, some people are known for, you know, for being the, hey, let's look at this and where it might go. And we need those people in our organizations and in our lives, because they help make sure that we are aligned to a future of what could happen. I'm probably known as the eternal optimist, because I like to look at those opportunities that show up in every market and how do we take advantage of them. And if I focus on that, one, I just feel better going into the office every day because I get to make a difference and do it. So I love that this is what that event was focused on.
I love that Courtney doesn't know who T-Pain is. And I am challenging her.
I know who T-Pain is. I just didn't believe that you were at a T-Pain concert. I thought it was like an analogy for like a burnt out old rapper who was on the Mask show with Nicole Scherzinger, who also now has a different, I don't know. I didn't think you were like Lil Wayne. Like, I mean, there's way cooler older rappers that you could go see. But T-Pain sings, right?
Yeah, he was good. He was really good, actually. So him and his DJ, and they got up there. I am in a little pain today, but yeah, it was a great overall group of sessions. You know, Bob Brooksmith was on a panel up there with other organizations. You know, Kimber from NAM, who's likely to be the president of NAM starting in October. You had Jonathan Haddad from AIM. You know, you had Brendan McKay up there from the Broker Action Coalition. I mean, you had a gentleman up there from NAREP. It was pretty cool to hear them, you know, just talk about all their different viewpoints. And again, it was another session that was very collaborative. And so I thought the event was really well done.
I thought I caught the tail end of that particular session. I was coming off a quick conference call I had to do, but I caught where they were talking about, you know, the Rocket Redfin, Mr. Cooper, and most of the headlines that we all see is the 1 in 6, right? They now account for 1 in 6 mortgages, blah, 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 blah. I thought Bob put a different spin on it in more of that abundance mindset, which was, guys, there's 5 and 6 loans are out there to be had, right? It's just sometimes that little shift in terminology and mindset that just makes all the difference.
Well, just because they're servicing them today doesn't mean they will in the future, right? I think that there's yes, okay, great. That's what's in their database or their portfolio. And you can look at any lender that way. And we all know, I like this term portfolio, because to me, that includes more than just database. So your portfolio of opportunities for business include more than just your database. It includes more than your servicing book. If you're Courtney looking at her servicing book and what she's going to do, it's more than your sphere of influence, right? It's all those things combined. And we all know that there is a game that is played after the game is played or before the game is played. When you're not on the field, there's a lot of things that happen that influence whether or not people choose to do business with you or somebody else. So go influence those things.
I like that mentality. Christy and I are just going to be the goddesses of positivity and good stuff. But the go influence, that's the thing that my brain keeps saying as I'm listening to all of these things, right? So I think the only thing that we know is that things are not going to calm down in the circus that has been DC in the last little bit. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of the year. We can fully expect that there's a new tariff next week or whatever. And if we know that we're in an insecure market, what can you do for your portfolio? Whether it's the macro portfolio or the individual LO portfolio, how would you approach that group if ... Because I promise you, there's people that have lost their jobs in that group, right? And need to make a transition. I promise you, there are people that are having kids in that group that need to make a transition because that their lifestyle or their home or their other things aren't working. And I do think that with inventory up, I think at least the general public is saying, okay, I'm not waiting for these interest rates to go down. This is the new normal. I mean, I think that there is a good indication there. So what are you going to do? I think that waiting is probably the biggest mistake. Waiting to go to a T-Pain concert or waiting to get out there and, fertilize. I mean, go pull the weeds out of your portfolio and get out there and do something. Or, I would be remiss not to mention my beloved servicing. I mean, it's a big issue now. And thank you, Rocket and Cooper, for bringing it back in the center of things. And thank you for bringing this part of the consumer's life cycle to a level of importance again, right? Inside, the grander scheme of mortgage. And it works for some companies and it doesn't work for other companies, but make decisions and take action, I think, is what Christy's saying. And yeah, let's go. It's Friday.
Yeah,
let's go.
Jeff brought up a good point in the chat. It's not your portfolio, it's your employer's, right? And so I just want to talk about that. So when Chris Vinson was talking about portfolio, he didn't mean loans necessarily service. He meant like any contact that you've ever created as an originator trying to cultivate business. That's a originator's portfolio, but to treat it like your portfolio. And now actual servicing portfolio, to his point, Jonathan Haddad came out and said that. He told those brokers, he goes, these are not your loans. These belong to the servicer. Those are not your loans. Now, I thought it was interesting for him to say that, considering that, wholesale lending was the whole, genesis of why AIM was even started. Is that, lenders at times will cut out originators once a loan is in their servicing portfolio. So I would say, yes, of course, a servicer owns the servicing asset, but they don't own the relationship. They like to, but the person that spent all the time with them when they originated the loan is the one that's local. And so, I'm not trying to put a cliche here, but just as an example, like some little desk jockey with a headset on that's like, hey, do you want to refi? That's not a relationship. And I know Courtney and team do a good job of trying to actually create relationships from the servicing side. And so I'll just add one more point that, 75% of home sellers then go buy another house. So someone that has a loan that they're paying off and having that data as a servicer, trying to get out in front of their intentions and all this, intent data to try and say, okay, we feel like you have equity, or maybe you're in a good position to sell. Let us also do your purchase. Will a servicer win when their client is selling their home and then trying to buy the next one? Will they win that purchase? It's not as rate sensitive. And I would contend that being local is a huge advantage for helping someone try and buy another local property, even if they have to move. To Deb's point about all the people being fired in the government, you either have to pack up and move if you're not going to get a job in DC. I think 60,000 government jobs have been lost year to date. I would push back on her comment a little bit. I mean, Deb, well, you're welcome to comment, but like, are we never going to fire a government employee ever? Like, is everything so efficient and like everything's great, And so, I mean, some people do need to go. I don't know what the number is. It's way above my pay grade. But again, I think purchase business originators are still going to win locally, no matter who has the loan and who's doing the stuff. And, there's 7.4 million jobs open in America. 7.4 million jobs is actually, the number went up on the job opening report this week. So maybe if someone had too cushy of a job in DC, and I'm not saying they're all like that. I'm not trying to, castigate them all, but, it might be time to, maybe take a different role, or you might have to move. I've moved multiple times for jobs. My life wasn't destroyed. It got better every move. So anyway, a lot going on there.
Last minute for the last word. Christy, let's let you give your last word. We'll go round robin.
All right. Last thing is, the market's going to keep changing. The things are going to keep happening. And we've each got to find the thing that drives us to do better, show up better, and take our share of the pie. Like, we're never all going to agree. Every consumer is not ever going to be in the right place at the right time. So go find your people, go find your tribe, and do something cool.
Love it. Courtney.
I think that if you take the human out of it and you take the loan officer out of it, you take the heart out of it. And so the Rocket Cooper model is very AI for AI's sake and a lot of desk jockeys. So all of you sales folks out there with heart, should really be refining your practices right now. Because if KP is right, and if you are here on a regular basis, I don't always agree with KP, but I do in this regard. My benefactor would agree with him in this regard. If that local relationship is the most important thing here, there's a lot of opportunity in this market.
Love it. KP, you get the last word again.
I mean, well said. There's a lot of business out there. Let's go get it. Service or not, I still think local originators are winning at the highest level in all three channels right now. So I don't see that changing when the bulk of the business is purchase business. The first time home buyer is very hard to AI out that process, right? So I still think those realtor relationships and originators at the local level, those are very powerful alliances, and I think they're going to continue to win.
I wrote a short piece that was in Tuesday's Chrisman commentary newsletter, and I asked the question of loan officers, what would you do different today if you knew for certain in the next 3 to 5 years the SAFE Act was going to change in such a way that licensed activities could be performed by an entity versus an individual, right? Would you focus on building more relationships? Would you quit and just give it up? And so then at the end of the article, I said, now allow yourself to imagine if you did make changes today and it didn't, and the SAFE Act stayed just as it what would your business look like? And so I think the point is, and you guys nailed it, change is inevitable. It's just where we are. We all control, from a mindset perspective and an execution perspective on what we can do today in our business to set us up for success tomorrow. AI is not going to take over the world, but if we're not embracing and using the tools in a way that help scale our individual capacity, we will get passed by others that are doing it. And so I love this room.
In a $2 trillion a year, those servicers, originators, everyone's going to win. There's a lot of winning going on. So my abundance mindset hat on that, yes, there's battles that rage, but there's a lot of winning that's going on.
I love it. I love this room. This to me is a digital room that comes together every Friday. There's other digital rooms.
We missed you, Courtney. We missed you last week.
Guys, find your people, find your tribe, as Christy said, find your room, get involved. And this room will be open again next Friday at 1:00 Eastern.
See you then.
See you guys.
Bye.